Hi everyone, Christian here, and let me welcome you to this very first, we're going to call it installment of Teachings of the Sabbath. Today is Saturday, so the Sabbath started yesterday at the end of the day, so we're going to talk to you just a little bit about what the Sabbath is, and then we're going to kick off these things. People have been asking me, Christian, you're not Jewish, why do you talk about the Sabbath so much? Christian, why it's so important about the Sabbath. And as you can see for Simba, the Sabbath is very important as well. So, what is the Sabbath? The Sabbath is the end of a cycle. The Sabbath brings the end of the work week in the Essene community that happens at the end of the day on a Friday. So, it is at the end of the day on that Friday where before we go to sleep in this community, we go ahead and remember that we are one with the universe of the Heavenly Father. And that's where we go when we go to sleep. That's where the soul returns to, and it has those holy experiences that you remember as dreams. So that is the first aspect of the Sabbath. The first aspect of the Sabbath is the closing of a cycle, the weekly cycle. Remember that there is cycles happening everywhere. There's the cycle of a second that lasts a second. The cycle of the minute that lasts 60 seconds. The cycle of the hour that is going to last 60 minutes. The cycle of the day that is going to last 24 hours. The cycle of the week that is going to last 7 days. The cycle of the month that is going to last 30 to 31 days, 28 days in February, 29 if it's a leap year. So you start to see that there is the concept of cycles. Cycles that you need to close because you just can't leave things open because the energy then doesn't flow. Everything has to have a beginning, everything has to happen, and then everything has to end. So that's why cycles are important, and it's the understanding of the opening and the closing of a particular cycle. Even in just about every experience that you have, not just in time. You're going through cycles all along. So that's why that aspect of the Sabbath is important. That is the first aspect, is the closing of a cycle. The second aspect of the Sabbath and why it's so important is that on the Saturday of the Sabbath, in the Essene community, we wear our best clothes. For some of us, for some of them used to be white robes. For some of us, they're the Rocks t-shirts. But we wear our best clothes, and usually the masters or the wise men who were at the highest level of Essene consciousness would come down from the temples, and they would teach. They would teach on the energy, they would teach on the scriptures, they would teach on the information that was important to the community at the time. So that is also why the Sabbath is so important, because we're not doing physical work, we're doing the spiritual work. We're nourishing the soul on that day. And we take the time to reflect on those things. You're going to realize that when I teach a lot on Saturdays. Well, and that's a couple of things for that. One of them is obviously convenience for a lot of people who work, but it's the day of teaching, it's the day of learning on the Sabbath. That's why I always tell you that Sabbaths are so important, because it's the time where it's the day where you take the time to do something that is good for the soul, that is going to enrich the spirit. In that teaching, you're going to take it on to the next cycle that you start on the Sunday. You take that teaching on to that cycle, and how does it apply to your life? How does it change you? How does it help you move forward? So those are the two aspects of the Sabbath that are so important. And the final aspect was the aspect of community. Because with everyone wore their best clothes, everyone then got together after the teaching, and they would throw a big feast, either with friends or with families. And you'll see that a lot of religious communities still do that. And a lot of those religious communities actually took their teachings from the Essene when churches and those establishments came about. And it is coming into that community and simply just sharing and coming into that community. And what does community mean? It means common unity. Common unity. It means a group of people that come together and they all live in the oneness of a consciousness. These are individuals that in their physicality live oneness. Something that we talk so much about in spirituality. In this particular community and in this aspect of simple living, you come to that oneness and that unity of consciousness in your physicality. That is why it's so important, because everyone has a purpose in that community and they all work together to make sure that that purpose is being fulfilled, because it's what sustains the unity and is what makes the community flow. That is why these teachings to me are so important. That is why I tell you that these teachings are life-changing when you take your consciousness on them. So that is the importance of the Sabbath. Number one, it closes a cycle. Number two, it's a time to nourish the soul. And number three, it's a time to come into community and into oneness, while you're living an incarnation of individuality. And those are big points that apply to every aspect of your life. So, thank you for joining me on this first installment of Teachings from the Sabbath. And I will see you next Sabbath, and we will see what the energies would like me to speak about. So, until then, peace be with you, and have a great end of the week and start of a new cycle.